In a wide-ranging interview with 60 Minutes at Mar-a-Lago, President Donald Trump delivered an unequivocal message about America's most advanced artificial intelligence chips. China won't get them. No, we won't do that, Trump said, when asked directly whether he would permit Nvidia to sell its most sophisticated semiconductors to China. While acknowledging that China can do business with the chipmaker, he drew a clear line. Not in terms of the most advanced. The most advanced, we will not let anybody have them other than the United States. The president framed the restriction as essential to maintaining American dominance in what he called the new internet. Allowing China access to cutting-edge chip technology, he argued, would give Beijing an equal advantage in artificial intelligence development. Trump asserted that the United States is leading the AI race right now by a lot, crediting this advantage partly to his regulatory approach of allowing AI companies to build their own electricity, generating facilities alongside data centers, bypassing what he described as an antiquated power grid. What Trump didn't mention in the interview, just 2 days earlier, his administration had signed a comprehensive trade deal with China that included significant concessions on semiconductor-related restrictions. According to the White House fact sheet released November 1st, the United States agreed to suspend for 1 year, starting on November 10, 2025, the implementation of the interim final rule titled Expansion of End-User Controls to cover affiliates of certain listed entities. In exchange, China committed to terminate its various investigations targeting U.S. companies in the semiconductor supply chain, including its antitrust, anti-monopoly, and anti-dumping investigations. Investigations that had specifically targeted Nvidia and Qualcomm. The agreement represents a nuanced middle ground, maintaining controls on the most advanced chips, while suspending broader restrictions on Chinese entities, and ending China's retaliatory investigations against American semiconductor companies. The semiconductor provisions are part of what the White House characterized as a massive victory that safeguards U.S. economic strength and national security, while putting American workers, farmers, and families first. Under the deal reached between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea, we have China's commitments. Suspend global implementation of expansive export controls on rare earths announced on October 9, 2025. Issue general licenses for exports of rare earths, gallium, germanium, antimony, and graphite to U.S. end users. Take significant measures to halt fentanyl precursor chemicals from flowing to the United States. Purchase at least 12 million metric tons of U.S. soybeans in late 2025 and 25 million metric tons annually through 2028. Remove retaliatory measures against U.S. companies and allow Nexperia's China facilities to resume critical legacy chip shipments. U.S. commitments. Lower fentanyl-related tariffs from 20% to 10%. Suspend heightened reciprocal tariffs on Chinese imports until November 10, 2026. Extend Section 301 tariff exclusions until November 10, 2026. Suspend for 1 year implementation of expanded end-user controls on certain Chinese entities. Suspend for 1 year responsive actions on China's maritime, logistics, and shipbuilding sectors. A critical detail largely absent from Trump's public messaging. Most of these agreements are temporary, with 1 year suspensions rather than permanent policy changes. The White House fact sheet specifies November 10, 2026 as the expiration date for multiple provisions, suggesting the current arrangement is a truce in an ongoing strategic competition rather than a final resolution. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent acknowledged this reality on Fox News Sunday, cautioning that, despite deals, the U.S. and its allies need to be wary of China. This is a problem that has been with us for several decades. It's never been addressed with these rare earths, the rare earth magnets, Bessent said. The Chinese have cornered the market, and unfortunately, at times, they prove to be unreliable partners. He added that he hoped we can depend on them to be more reliable partners after implementation of the deal. But his comments suggested ongoing vigilance rather than confidence in a permanent solution. The agreement reveals that China wielded significant bargaining power through its dominance in rare earth minerals processing. Beijing had threatened to restrict flows of these critical materials to the United States and allied countries, creating vulnerability in American supply chains for everything from defense systems to consumer electronics. China's willingness to terminate investigations into Nvidia and Qualcomm, while the U.S. maintains its most stringent chip export controls, suggests that both sides achieved strategic objectives. Beijing gets relief from some U.S. restrictions and secures agricultural purchases, while Washington protects its lead in cutting-edge AI technology and addresses the fentanyl crisis. The Chinese embassy in Washington indicated satisfaction with the framework. China stands ready to work with the U.S. to act on the important common understandings between the two presidents, and continuously shorten the list of problems and lengthen the list of cooperation through dialogue and consultation. Trump characterized artificial intelligence as transformative technology exceeding even the Internet's impact. When asked about concerns over a potential AI bubble given massive investments flowing into the sector, Trump expressed confidence. He emphasized that the U.S. maintains a significant lead over second-place China, adding, "We have the greatest minds of any country anywhere in the world, and we're using that." The president's positioning of AI leadership as essential to American competitiveness links to his broader economic strategy of using tariffs and trade policy to encourage domestic manufacturing and technological development. The AI chip restrictions continue a bipartisan policy. The Biden administration had also maintained strict export controls on advanced semiconductors, which the Trump administration has continued while adding its own negotiating framework. However, the approach differs in execution. Where Biden focused primarily on multilateral coordination with allies to restrict China's access to chip technology, Trump has used these restrictions as bargaining chips within broader bilateral trade negotiations. The result is a more transactional relationship, temporary suspensions and one-year agreements rather than permanent structural changes to the U.S.-China technology relationship. Despite addressing some key flashpoints, the agreement fails to comprehensively resolve all issues at the heart of U.S.-China tensions. The deal doesn't address geopolitical concerns over Taiwan or cooperation on Russia's war in Ukraine. Trump has signed off on a plan for an American consortium to buy TikTok's U.S. operations, but Beijing has yet to formally approve that sale. The one-year time frame for most provisions suggests both sides view this as a temporary détente rather than a fundamental realignment of the relationship. Trump's firm no on advanced chips in the 60 Minutes interview represents consistent policy. The U.S. continues blocking China's access to cutting-edge AI semiconductors. But the full picture is more complex. The administration is simultaneously maintaining the hardest restrictions on the most advanced technology, suspending some broader controls as part of negotiated agreements, using chip policy as leverage for concessions on fentanyl, rare earths, and agriculture, operating within temporary frameworks subject to renegotiation. This creates a strategic ambiguity. Trump can claim an uncompromising stance on protecting America's AI advantage, while his administration actively negotiates exceptions and suspensions behind the scenes. Whether this approach successfully balances competition with China while avoiding economic disruption remains to be seen. The November 2026 expiration dates will provide the first real test of whether these temporary measures become permanent arrangements or simply delay an inevitable confrontation over technological supremacy. For now, Trump's message remains clear. On the most advanced AI chips, America isn't sharing. Everything else, apparently, is negotiable. What do you think? Is Trump's strategy of public hardlines with private negotiations smart diplomacy, or just kicking the can down the road? Let me know in the comments. If you found this valuable, like and subscribe to catch our follow-up when these November 2026 deadlines hit. Thanks for watching.